Okay, so I have started recording and now I'm going to share my screen with you. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, so as you can see, I'm inside the University of Houston Blackboard environment. I am accessing my Turnitin assignments, and I have this assignment here, my environmental impact assignment, and I have one student who has submitted a paper. Hopefully this looks very familiar to you. The only thing you have to do to get into Feedback Studio is to actually click on the similarity score. One second here while I close, oops. I'm gonna close that out. So when I click on the similarity score, or if I click on this little pencil icon here, it's gonna open up Feedback Studio for us. Oops, let me try that again. I had it open for a while, so it must have turned me out. 1 second. Oh, I apologize. I think I might have to go back and reload. Okay, so here we go. This is the new Feedback Studio view. As you can see, it looks a little different than what you're probably used to, which is the classic view. And if I jump over really quickly, I'm gonna bring up what the classic view looks like. So this probably looks familiar to you. In the classic view, we had a number of different ways to navigate. And in the new Feedback Studio view, we've tried to make that a little easier on you. So if you remember in the classic view, you had the ability to click on originality and your originality score would show up and you would have your matching and highlighting for that matching. You could click on grade mark here and it would bring up your grade mark so that you could leave quick marks and drag and drop. And it also brought up the ETS rater if you were using it, so that it was showing any type of spelling, grammar, usage, style, or mechanics. And then there was also peer mark. You could access peer mark through the classic view as well. One of the things you'll remember is if you had originality on, then you also didn't have grade mark or peer mark on. So you could have one at a time. In the new Feedback Studio, what you'll see is it allows you to open them all up at once and overlap them. So that's something that's really nice. Yeah, you also notice over here that this is your match overview screen. So you can see the match. In this case, this paper matched 100%. But you could also have your all sources view here, this little button, and it would list out all the sources that fall underneath this 100%. And then you had these other action buttons down here, such as filtering and exclusions. These all still exist in Feedback Studio. We've just made it a little easier to get to, and hopefully you'll find that it's easier to use. You also had over here down on the left, this little yellow arrow. You can see the ability to print, to use the iPad app, and to download the information such as page count, word count, paper ID, that type of stuff. Again, this all exists. It's just in a different place in Feedback Studio, which we'll cover. And then we also had the text-only report, which is also still available in Feedback Studio, although there is not a button for it. You have to click the tab button, and it will open up the ability to use the text-only report, which we're going to take a look at. In the classic view, you had this roadmap up here, which basically gave you the ability to let us know how we were doing, right? If you had any ideas or anything, comments that you wanted to give us, or you know, any features you wanted to see, you could click that roadmap button and you could let us know. This still exists, it's just in a different place now, but you still have that ability. And then if we go back and look at the grade mark view, you remember you also had these action items, but again, these action items are still similar and still available. We'll just see that they're a little different. Any questions about the classic view before I jump into Feedback Studio and we start taking a look at what that will do for you? Okay, I can always come back to this, so if you do have a question, it's no problem, just let me know. So I'm going to go ahead and click back into our Feedback Studio. You'll notice over here on the right-hand side at the top, this little question mark. This is kind of that roadmap button. So if I click on help, it's going to give us some popular articles such as how to interpret the similarity report, rubrics and grading tools. But here's down here you can see is the provide feedback tool. So if you have any feedback for us, you can click on this and let us know. Okay. You also have the ability to obviously enter in the grade. And you can toggle through your students. In this case, I only have one paper, but if I had multiple papers and multiple students, I can quickly toggle through them without having to close out Feedback Studio and open up another student's assignment. I can simply go through them by clicking this drop down and choosing, or I could just click this little arrow and that's just gonna automatically move me to the next student's paper so that I can grade it as well. Over here on the left, this little tile here allows us to navigate the page or scroll up and down. If you don't want to use the scroll, you can use this to move page by page if you want to. And then over here on the right, you're going to see all these icons. We're calling these layers. And if I click on this top one, you'll see it lets me know all my active layers. So right now, I only have similarity on. That's why I only see some highlights. If I click on the grading, it's also going to pop up all my grades, all my quick marks that I've dragged and dropped. And then lastly, if I click on E-Rater, you'll see all these purple items pop up here. So unlike Classic, where you had to have your originality or your similarity report on by itself, or you had to have grading and E-Rater on at the same time, you have the ability to move through these and open them up one by one or have all layers on at one time. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and leave all the layers on. I'm going to go ahead and close down this Active Layers tab. And that's going to move us to our first layer here, which is our quick marks. So if I click on this little button here, our quick marks are going to slide out for us. For those of you that have used Turnitin before, this will probably look very familiar to the Classic view. All I have to do as an instructor is to grab these comments, these quick marks, and drop them where I feel they belong on the paper. I have a number of sets of quick marks. So this, I'm in punctuation. If I go to commonly used, it will load up my commonly used quick marks. And again, I can drag and drop them anywhere I want. If I want to, if you might remember in the Classic view, there was a little wrench here. It's now a gear, but this is our manager, our quick mark manager. And if I open that up, you can see it brings me to this menu here. I'm in my commonly used quick mark set, and these are all the quick marks that fall underneath it. I can take them out of this set if I want to. And if I want, I can actually create a quick mark by just clicking on this little plus sign, and I can create my own quick mark. I can format it. I can even add a link to that quick mark if I want to. If I come up to this little button here, maybe I want to create my own set. I can click on Create a New Set. Just call this My Set. Click Save. And now you can see under My Sets, I have my set. If I've created a really great set of quick marks, I could upload or I can download that set of quick marks, and I could share those with a colleague who could then come in and upload those quick marks to use them as well. Okay, if I come down to any of, or here I have my commonly used sets, I can stick with this for now. You can see I can toggle through them. If I find one that I like, I can click Add to Set, and I'm gonna add it to my set. And I can just go through any of my quick marks and I can add them to my set and build out my own quick mark set. If I don't want to go through them set by set and take a look at them that way, I can click on All, and it's going to bring up all the available quick marks. You can see this list just got a lot longer. And I can come through and I can add any of them to my set. Any questions about the Quick Mark Manager before we move on?
Does the search field in the top right search for quick marks?
Right, so if I put in DEL, it's going to bring up those quick marks.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Yeah, great question. Any others? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close this out, bring us back into Feedback Studio. You can see now once I close that out, if I bring up my list here, here's my set that I just created. Here are those 3 that I added, and now I can drag and drop them wherever I want to. You also have the ability to actually click into the page itself. So if I click into the page, you can see it gives me these 3 options here. I'll start over here on the right, which is the inline text. So I can type right into the paper itself so that the student can see my inline text right there. I can click into the paper and I can add my own comment. Again, I can format it. I can add a link. And if I find that I'm leaving the same comment over and over and over again, I can, without having to go into the Quick Mark Manager, I can simply convert this to a quick mark. I'll call it See Me. I'm going to add it to my set. I'm going to click Save. And you can see now I have a See Me quick mark that I can drag and drop anywhere on the page. The other thing I'll show you here, if I create my own comment, is I can assign criterion. So if you're a rubric user and you're using a Turnitin rubric, I can actually assign criterion to these comments. I'll do that with the See Me over here. I have a rubric loaded, and my rubric areas are ideas, organization, word choice, fluency, and conventions. I'm going to assign criteria. I'm sorry? Oh, I think back. 1 second. Okay, so is anybody hearing any feedback from this?
Yeah, I'm hearing a feedback delay.
Oh boy, okay. I'm not sure where that came from, I'm sorry. Okay, that seems to be a little better. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and continue here. Hopefully that's not going to jump up on us again. So I just added criterion. So if I was to jump down to my rubrics form, which I'll do really quickly here, here's my rubric. You can see I just added a criterion to my rubric, which is organization. If I click on that, you can see Please See Me. So as you start to add your quick marks or comments, you can add rubric criterion that will start to tally for you inside your rubric to then hopefully help you see those comments associated with those areas and grade easier. Okay, I'm going to jump back to our quick marks tab. I'm going to show you. Yeah.
Pardon me, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Hi, this is Shari Mouthner. In the past, if you assigned a fraction in the rubric, it would round up in gradebook. Is that still the case?
It is still the case. We've actually gotten quite a bit of feedback on that, and I know that's something they're looking into. But unfortunately, it does still round up. It's not going to allow you to put in, 0.5 or 0.8. It's going to give you a full grade.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, good question. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to show you here was also the ability to click into the paper, and I can add a quick mark this way if I want to. If maybe you don't want to drag and drop, you just want to be able to click and add quick marks, you can do it that way. You can also add a comment, and again, you can assign criterion if you want to your rubric. The other option you have while grading is you can actually highlight and you can strike through if you want to. I can highlight this paper and I can add a comment specific to this paper. Again, I can add criterion if I want to. I can add links. I can convert this to a quick mark. But when I click out of this, you'll notice here's my comment. But if I take this all the way up here, you can see there's a direct line to that highlight so that that student knows exactly where this comment belongs. And you can move this around anywhere you want to. And lastly, if I highlight again, I have the ability to add a quick mark just like I could before. I'll choose the See Me. I won't add a comment. But again, this one I can bring up here and it's going to create a direct line to that highlight so the student knows. Okay, any questions about quick marks? Okay, we can always come back to it. So if something pops into your head, just let me know. I'm going to go ahead and move on to this next tab here, which is the feedback summary. If I click on that, you have the ability to leave up to a 3-minute voice comment if you'd like. And you can also leave, more of a summative comment up to 5,000 characters, again, formatable with the ability to link. Okay. The next button here, or layer, is our rubric. So you saw before, I jumped into this quickly, but here I have a rubric. And now in the Feedback Studio view, it's a sliding bar, mostly for accessibility, but in the classic view, it was buttons. We now have the sliding bar for you. So you can slide to the grade you believe they've earned, and you can apply to grade, and you'll see our grade up here change to a 70. Now this isn't set in stone. If you believe that, well, yeah, it was a 70, but I really think they had a 72, you can type into it and you can make that change. And if you feel like, well, the sliding's fine, I'd really rather see the entire rubric box by box, you can choose to see the full size rubric in a new window. And if I click on that, that opens up our rubric along with that added criterion that I added. And you can just click on the box rather than using the slider. If I maximize this, I can click apply to grade. And that 72 we had is now an 85. So how I got to that window was clicking on these little arrows. That opens up the maximum view for your rubric. And then you can choose box by box. Okay. The other thing I'll show you here, again, in the classic view, this was a wrench, but now it is a gear. But this opens up our rubric manager. So if I click on that, you can see it brings up our rubric that we're using. It's called Actual Writing Rubric. Again, you do have a little help button over here that you can click on that's going to take you directly to our Turnitin website having to do with rubrics and grading forms, which is really nice. That was this little button here. Over here on the left, we have our menu button. If you click on that, you can see it gives you the ability to create a brand new rubric, and it will give you a formatted page similar to what you're looking at here and allow you to create a rubric from scratch. You can upload a rubric. If you upload a rubric, it needs to be in a certain format. We will accept a .rbc format. The .rbc format is where you're going to find, or you'll find that format in our rubric library that is available to you. So if you go to our Turnitin website and visit our rubric library, there is, I think, 50 plus rubrics that you can look through and choose to use. And they are in a .rbc format that you can download into or upload into your course. You also can use Excel sheets. However, just keep in mind the Excel sheet needs to be formatted correctly for it to be accepted. So you do have the ability, but you can't just upload any Excel sheet rubric that you've created because it needs to be formatted correctly. So we do also give you the ability to use a formatted, or we give you a formatted Excel sheet that you can then just fill out with your rubric and load it that way. And the nice thing about that is, again, you can share those rubrics just like your QuickMark library, but you could share those with colleagues if you wanted to. And you can download those in, or download those from our website, or upload them if you need to.
Hey, Ryan, can you share the link to your website where you have those libraries?
Yeah, do you want me to follow up with you with that, or do you want me to like try and put them in the chat?
Either way, whatever's easiest.
Okay.
But I think that would be really helpful for us to share with faculty.
Okay, that no problem. I think without me having to go around, or maybe if we have some time at the end, I just don't want to take away from it. It might take me a couple of minutes to get there.
That sounds great.
Okay, yeah, I'll follow up with that. Okay, you also have the ability to not only use rubrics, but you also have the ability to use a grading form. Some of you might not be familiar with what our grading forms are. You know, I'm sorry about that. I clicked on upload. We have grading forms that you can use that are kind of like mini rubrics. Basically, it allows you to just name, the parts of which you want to grade, intro, body, paragraph, that type of stuff. And then it allows you just to assign a score. So and then add a comment. So it's not a true rubric. but you can attach a grading form if you want to. So that is another option for you. So in this case here, I am using my actual writing rubric. I'm going to go ahead and close this out and go back. Well, did anybody have any other questions before I move on from the rubric library? Okay. Now, the rubric you will attach when you're creating your actual assignment. For those of you that have used it before, I'm sure you're familiar with it. For those that haven't, when you actually create your assignment in Blackboard, you have the ability to add a Turnitin rubric. So that's how you would attach a rubric to your assignment, so that when your students or when yourself opens up Feedback Studio, you have a rubric inside the assignment. Okay, so I'm now going to jump to our next layer here, which is our similarity tools. You can see here are those action items from the classic view, filtering and exclusions. We now just have them all layered right here for you. So if I click on the 75, that's going to bring us to our match overview. So here's all my largest matches from 18% down to 1%. These are our main matches. You can see that they are color-coded and numbered so that you can easily find them in the paper. And if I actually drill into these larger matches by clicking on this little arrow here, it's going to view our match breakdown. And within that 18%, here's a number of other websites and or student papers or journals or articles that have also used a portion of what I've used here. So if I click on this 18%, you can see here it gives us within the context of the article it came from. Here is the same matching from this live science website. If this is too small of a view, I can click on this little full source view here, and over here on the right, the full article will show up, so I can see the same matching within that article. Okay. Oops. That's not what I wanted to click on. Sorry about that. Again, if I open up this 18%, here's my complete list within that 18%. And you can also see here are some papers. So in this case, a student from Edison High School used this same source and same paragraph as I did. Here's someone from Grand Canyon University. And here's a whole number of students within Grand Canyon University that have used that. So you can see it really starts to break it down for you. In this case, this is Foothill De Anza Community College. You have the ability to try to contact that instructor and ask to see that student's paper. We can't guarantee you that they're going to give you permission to see that student's paper, but you can try to contact them to see it if you want to. Please keep in mind, though, that if you do try and contact that instructor to get permission to see that paper, it's going to contact them by the email that they used for their course. So if they're not there anymore, or if they're on sabbatical or something like that, you may not hear from them. So just something to keep in mind. And then the other thing you'll notice down here is exclude sources. So if I click on exclude sources, maybe there's some sources in here I just don't want to see. I don't think they're relevant. I think they're important. I can choose them, click exclude. And now from that match breakdown, those sources are no longer in this list. You can't notice because you probably don't notice because there's so many matches here, but they will disappear for you. Okay. Oops. So you also remember, oops, I jumped to it a little too quick here. We have our match overview, which is all of our largest matches. You'll remember in the classic view, there was a little toggle button up here that allowed you to toggle from match overview to all sources view. So if I click on this 75 here, here's that other button called all sources. If I click on that, it's simply going to give us all of our matching sources that fall underneath all those smaller, larger matches. So all the 18% that we had, and when I drill into those, it gives us a larger list. This is going to be your complete list. So you have your match overview that you can drill into each one of these. And then you have your all sources view. Okay. You also have the ability to click on the filter button, filters and settings here. And you have the ability on a paper-by-paper basis to actually exclude quotations or bibliography from the similarity score. So if this is a research paper and you find that their score is pretty high, you can come in here and exclude quotes and bibliography and see how much that similarity score drops. In this case, my similarity score is 75. This isn't really a research paper. I just randomly chose paragraphs off the internet. So there's not much to exclude here for me, but typically in a research paper, I'd imagine maybe a 5% drop if you exclude quotes and bibliography. And all you gotta do is check those boxes, click Apply Changes, and it will change the score for you. You also have the ability to exclude sources that are less than so many words. So if I have a match of 2 words, I can choose to exclude those matches completely, helping to bring down my similarity score, but also not cluttering up the page with useless small matches. So you have the ability to do that. You also have the ability to exclude by percent, but keep in mind this percent is based on word count. So you might be thinking, well, I'll just put in a 1% match, that's pretty small, but you've got a 1,000-word paper, that's a 10-word match. So that might be a little larger than what you might want to exclude. So just something to keep in mind. I usually say as a best practice, stick to excluding words rather than percentage, unless you know for sure what you want to do. Okay, and then again, if you chose to exclude by word match or percentage match, you can apply those changes and it again will affect your match overview score and allow you to see what the true similarity score is without those matches. You have the ability when you create your assignment to choose on a global assignment level to make these exclusions, to filter out quotes and bibliography. So I just want you to know that you have the ability when creating the assignment to exclude these items for every student, for every paper, or you can, when you open up a single student's paper, exclude them yourself on a paper-by-paper basis. So you have those 2 options. Okay? And then you also have the ability, if you do decide to apply these changes from the exclusions, you can run a new report on that completely if you want to. Okay? And then our last button here under the similarity is our excluded sources. So you remember when I was looking at that giant list from the match overview that I drilled into, I excluded a number of sources. Here they all are. So if I want to, I could choose one and click to restore it, or I can just click on restore all. And all of those sources will now appear on my match overview list again. I won't bring you into it because that list is so long. But just keep in mind that if you do exclude anything, you can always bring it back. All right. Any questions about our similarity layer?
When you run a report, a new report for does it run for just a single student?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, good question.
What format?
It will be a report just like this. It's just going to run a new report for you.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Any other questions? Okay, again, we can always come back to this. So if something pops into your mind, just let me know. The next layer I'm going to jump to really quickly here is the ETS rater. Not sure how many of you have used this, but this is a software that we partner with, kind of an artificial intelligence that is going to automatically go into your students' papers and check for grammar, mechanics, style, usage, and spelling. If you don't want it to check for grammar, maybe you find that it's not as good at checking grammar as you thought, or mechanics. In this case, well, you can turn them off, and any of the purple items here that had to do with grammar will just drop off the page for you. So maybe you just want to focus on a couple of these items. If you don't want any of them, remember, you can go to your active layers and just turn off E-Rater completely. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and click on this again. One of the nice things about ETS Rater, I think, is that it's nice when it just brings something to your attention. If you don't agree with what it is, you can always click on it and you can just dismiss it. But at least it's showing you an item that, maybe you might want to take a closer look at this. So like I showed you, all you got to do is click on that comment and you can dismiss it. You can also add your own comment there if you want to add more than just what the ETS Rater is giving you. But what's also really nice about the ETS Rater for students, they have this same view here. If they click on View Handbook for any of these here, they can click on View Handbook, and it's going to bring them straight to an online handbook that hopefully they'll take the time to actually look at. But they also have the ability to click on the table of contents, and you can see how much we offer in this online handbook. Okay. So again, all they had to do was click on View Handbook, but they will actually have to click on that item itself and click View Handbook. And again, if I don't like this as an instructor, I can just dismiss it and it will disappear altogether. Any questions about the ETS rater? I forgot to mention that this is something you can turn on or off when you're creating an assignment. So when you get to the assignment and the features and the options, it will ask you if you want to turn on ETS rater. You just have to choose yes, and this will appear. If you choose no when creating your assignment, this will not exist. You won't see ETS rater in here. So something to keep in mind. If you don't see it at all and you want to be using it, it's an assignment level option, and you'll want to go back and edit your assignment and add back ETS rater. Okay, the last item here that I'm going to jump to is our little gear. If I click on this, you'll notice it gives us a couple of items here. The first is this submission information. You remember in the classic view that was available to us, all these items were down here in the bottom left. If I click on that little I, it's going to let us know all of our submission details, our submission ID, which is great in case there's any tech support issues. A student needs to get in touch with us. They need to let us know their submission ID, submission date, character count, word count, all that good stuff. And then also by clicking on the gear, they have the download button. If we click on that, we have three options. We can download our originally submitted file. So if they submit it as a doc, a Word doc, we can download that Word doc without any of our comments, just the originally submitted file. And we can print that up. We also have our digital receipt, which is basically just what we saw with that submission info. But this will be an actual document that you can print up. And then lastly, what we have here is our current view. And I really love this current view because it allows you to create a document that contains everything that you have added to your student's paper. So if I click on current view, you can see it's preparing a download. It takes it a couple seconds. I think this paper was, this paper is three pages long. But you'll see, here's my current view report right here. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. You can see it's created a 12-page document off my 3-page paper. So my first page here is, this is my title and by my student. Here's that file information, time submitted, submission ID. But here's the actual paper with all of our comments, all of our highlights, all of the similarity and matching, all of the ETS rater comments. We scroll through, you can see everything we've added. We can see our score, where we matched, and those percentages. If I had a bibliography, it would also go through that. Here's our score for the paper. Here's every single quick mark we've added, and it labels it out by page. Here's the comments that I created and explanations for those quick marks. And here's all of our ETS comments that were added. And then here's our rubric. So the student can actually see how they scored inside the rubric to get a better understanding of why they received the score that they did. And this is a great document, I think, for students to be able to print up and take to a writing lab or take to their tutor or possibly back to office hours. But it's a really great document, automatically generates for instructors and or students to really get a better idea of why they got the grade that they did. And this is something you can create yourself and email to the student. If you don't think they're going to take the time to actually open it up themselves, you can send this to them in case they're asking you a lot of questions about why they received the grade they did. You can simply send them this and say, take a look at this, and we can talk about this in office hours.
Is it possible to print out the rubric in that format without a single criterion being highlighted? You know what I mean? Just a standard rubric that you've created?
Yeah, that's a good question. You could not assign a score and this would just, be this way, but that's something I'm going to have to check on.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm writing it down right now. Okay. Good question. Any other questions about the current view report? Okay. I'm going to leave this open just in case. We'll jump back to Feedback Studio. The next thing I have to show everybody is the student view and how to submit a paper as a student. Any questions about that before we leave our view here in Feedback Studio? Any questions about what we just ran through, all the way from quick marks down to the current view? Anything at all? Okay. Oh, the last thing I wanted to show you, for some of you that may have used the text only report button down here in the classic view. Now to get to that text only report, you have to click the tab button and it will allow you to navigate to the text only similarity report. And if you click on that, it will give you the text only similarity report. And here's our paper along with our matching. But in case you are someone who likes to use that, it is still available to you. All you have to do is click the tab button when you're inside Feedback Studio, and the text only report will pop up here. Okay, if there are no more questions, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. We'll jump into what the student sees. We can always come back to this if you have any questions. So I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Oops, head back to this. I'm going to jump over to, this is a student course. This has been open for a little bit, so I'm hoping it didn't log me out. But this is in our Turnitin Blackboard environment that we have. That's why there's no University of Houston branding or anything like that. But you can see it looks very similar. So as a student, I would go to Content. It will show me all of my assignments. I'm going to come down to this test assignment, which I just created. Click on View Complete. The student will then see this screen with the info. If they come over to info, they can see the assignment structures. In this case, late paper submissions are allowed. Resubmissions are not allowed. Your instructor has attached this rubric. So if they click on this, it will actually open up the rubric for the student to see before they've submitted any papers. Here's their start date, due date, and post date. Keep in mind when you're creating an assignment, your post date, the due date obviously is when the whole assignment is shut down. The post date is when students can see your comments. So if you're in Feedback Studio adding quick marks and comments, they're not going to be able to see those until the post date. So keep that in mind. Your post date has to be, it can be any time as long as it's after the start date. So I typically would make my post date right, the day after the start date, just so as I start to grade papers, students can see my comments. But it's completely up to you if you want to save that until the due date. But that's what the post date means. It's when they can see your feedback. And then all a student has to do is click the Submit button. It's going to give them our student name, my submission title. I'll call it Test 3. I'm going to choose a file from my computer, but they can also choose a file from Dropbox or from Google Drive if they use those. I'll choose a file from my computer, come down and use my Global Warming 4.0. I'm going to click Upload. It's going to let us know that it's accepting this. It should take less than 2 minutes. It's usually seconds. Here's all of our information over here on the left: word count, character count, file size. I can toggle through the pages if I want to. And then once they've seen that, yes, this is exactly what they want to submit, they just need to click Confirm. And once they've clicked Confirm, they can click Return to Assignment List. And now it gives them processing. Typically, their similarity report takes about 2 to 5 minutes. I've seen it take up to 10 minutes. There are busier days, as you can imagine, for students submitting papers. Sunday nights, for example. So depending on how busy the test server is, it might, or test server, how busy our server is, it might take a little longer, but I've honestly not seen it take longer than 5 minutes. Okay. The student, once they've submitted, they do have, these buttons are now live, so they can view the file that was submitted, and they can download that original file, that original Word doc that they submitted, if they need to. So now students have submitted, they're just waiting for their similarity score to come back to them and be processed. I'm going to go ahead and go back to click on content because I've already submitted one and we can take a look at what it looks like. I'm going to head down to this global warming 2, click on view complete. And here I am in my assignment inbox. And this is what it looks like once the similarity scores come back. They can see their score. If they click on their score, it's going to open up Feedback Studio for the student. It's going to give them a little tutorial the first time they jump in. I'm going to go ahead and close that out. I'm going to go ahead and maximize this. But you can see they don't have as many buttons as you do. If I click on the comments, my comments for my instructor jump up. Now this isn't the page, this isn't the paper we just looked at. I'm in a different course now. But they just need to click on those comments and they can see if I had added a voice comment, it would appear here. If I added a text comment, it would appear here. But you can see now they have access to all of their quick marks. They can click on their score just like you could. They can drill into those matches just like you can. They also have the all sources view, and they also have the ability to filter those settings, exclusions, bibliography, quotes, just in case they're curious what their score might be without quotes or bibliography. They can do this on their side. It will not affect your view, but it does give them that ability. And then they also have the ability to take a look at the e-rater so that they can see those matches as well. And again, all they do is click on it and then they can view the handbook. Then down here, they have the download button and the submission information. Submission information, just like we saw before, very quick, easy way to see that paper ID in case they might want to get in touch with tech support. But then here's where they can download their current view. So you can imagine, though, for students using this for the first time, a lot of them probably are not going to come down here and click on download and click on current view. So that might be something maybe in class or something you might want to show them that that's available to them, because I know a lot of them think it's pretty great, but a lot of them don't know it's there. So just something to keep in mind. But here is the student view. Any questions about submitting the paper or everything we've just run through on the student side?
So if you choose to not let your students see the similarity report, that red sidebar will disappear?
That's correct. If you don't allow them to see their similarity, they will not be able to see their score.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, one thing I will say too, when creating your assignment, there's going to be an option that tells you allow any file type. So you could allow a student to turn in a picture if they wanted to. Now, we can't check for similarity because it's a picture. There's no text, but it would still show up here. So if you did have an assignment that you wanted to be able to add comments to or be able to mark up in this way, they could, submit a JPEG that you could then see and comment on. So I just wanted to let you know, depending on your options, you can choose to only allow file types that allow for a generation of a similarity report, or you can allow all file types. It's up to you. Great. Any other questions? Okay. So what I'm going to do then, Taylor, I'm going to send you that rubric library so that you can share that. And I'm also going to send out the recording. If there are no more questions, though, I will let everybody go, and I hope you enjoy your day. Are there any last questions?
Yeah, before you go, I just want to say thank you. This is really helpful for us to see in detail all the actually I should say where everything is
Right.
Instead of the new features. It'll take a bit of a learning curve, but I think I don't know. I'm happy with the product you guys have
Great.
designed for us.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. And please keep in mind, remember that little question mark for you up in your corner. If you have any feedback for us, good or bad, let us know. We're always trying to make things better.
All right, great.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I really appreciate your time today. Have a great day, and I will be sending this recording on as soon as I can.
Super. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks. Take care.